Hello and welcome back to What the Frick podcast. For those that are unaware, I just spent the last 8 days in Barcelona, Spain. That is so crazy to say. I just got back last night, filming this now, so I try not to forget everything for you guys. But if you can't tell, my voice, to me, it sounds a little weird. I'm hoping that I'm not getting sick, but when you spend 8 days abroad, barely sleeping, surrounded by people, being on planes, I just have a feeling in the next few days I might catch something, but hoping for the best here. But for those that don't remember, I spent last summer doing another trip abroad where I went to like 5 different countries and did an episode on everyone that I went to. So I want to do the same thing here, just kind of going over the events from the trip and starting off with just getting there. I thought things would go very smoothly. Turns out they didn't. Funny enough, last year when I took like 8 different flights, I had 0 issues whatsoever. The only problem I had was coming back from Dublin back to America. My flight got delayed by 1 hour. That was it. I thought that this one would go a lot smoother, being that I'm just taking 1 flight into Barcelona and 1 flight back to America. I did have to stop in JFK on the way over because you can't fly straight there from Phoenix. But I was like, wow, this will be so easy. Wrong. So I'm boarding my flight from Phoenix to JFK. I'm sitting in the lounge, having a good time. I go to my gate to board. As they're starting to board the groups, I get a text from the other airline, which was Iberia, which is like a Spanish airline. And that was what's going to be flying me from JFK to Barcelona. I get a text from them saying that my flight's been canceled. And I was like, what? Like as I'm getting on my first flight for the first part of the trip. So I'm freaking out. I'm trying to call them and, it takes forever, but I don't really have time to call them because I have to get on this other flight. So I start panic texting my mom saying like, I'm going to need you to figure this out. Like I have to get on this flight. And I don't really have service when you're on a plane for 4 hours flying to New York City. So, like, can you please figure this out? And, like, I'll buy Wi-Fi on the plane so I can text you. But, like, I'm not going to have good enough service to be able to do this on my own. I need to, like, figure this out so I can get to Barcelona. So I get on the plane, and my mom's an angel. Thank God for her. Shout out my mom. But she figured everything out, was calling Iberia, was calling American Airlines, and because I booked the ticket on American Airlines, it was all kind of under one ticket, but operated by different airline brands, which is actually very confusing. But everything worked out. I spent the first half of the flight just texting my mom, like panicking. I couldn't even relax or watch a movie. I'm just like, did you figure it out? Did you figure it out? And they were able to get me on a flight that same night, thank God. Because at first, the next Iberia flight would not be out till the next day. And I was like, I'm not going to spend a night in JFK and, like, waste a whole day. Because my 2 friends were already on their way to Barcelona from LAX. So I was like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, this isn't fun. This isn't fair. So thankfully, American was able to get me on a different flight. That was British Airways that same night at, like, 11 p.m. New York time. But I couldn't check into the flight because it was like too late to check in. I couldn't upload my passport while I was on the flight. So I landed in JFK, went to the counter, and I was like, can you please help me? Like, this is what happened. It won't let me check in. I don't have a ticket. Like, I'm so stressed. And I had bought a seat in the exit row for the flight to Barcelona because it is so long and I can't afford first class, but the exit row is kind of like more room, So I had bought this seat for like an extra $100, and my mom was telling me on the phone how because the flight's, booked so last minute, I'm probably going to end up in like the middle row, like the middle section. And I was like, I just can't do this, but whatever gets me there, gets me there. Thankfully, though, I get there, and I was talking to the people that, like, the little agents at the desks, and they were able to check me in, get me a ticket, and get me the same exact seat I had in the exit row. So I was just so thankful and so happy. And then I just went and waited for my flight, and everything was good. I was supposed to be the first one to arrive in Barcelona before my friends, like by 2 hours. And I was going to get there, shower and get ready. And it ended up being like they got there before me, and then when I got to the Airbnb, they were like, you have 15 minutes to get ready and we're going out. And I was exhausted. I hadn't slept. I had so much stress going into the whole day from, all the events that transpired. But I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm here. So I had my hair in this little braid like all day. So I just took it out of the braid, put a headband in, threw a little bit of makeup on, and like the first outfit I unpacked, and we just like went out to dinner. We were all pretty tired from traveling, so we didn't go out very long. We just got dinner and then went to this one bar and then kind of called it a night. But it was just stressful. Like, traveling is obviously very stressful, and when things go wrong or there's like issues with the plane or delays, people get really mad. And I try to not be one of those people that's like getting super mad. But when you spend so much money and you dedicate your time to a trip like this that literally takes like 12 hours to get to, it's stressful. And I had to add a whole extra part of my flight because I was supposed to fly straight from JFK to Barcelona, but because I had to switch airline brands to British Airways, I had to fly from Phoenix to JFK, from JFK to London, from London to Barcelona. So it just added like way more time and way more like stress onto my day, but that's life, I guess. So our first official day there was pretty jam-packed. We did a lot of walking, about 20,000 steps, and we went to Casa Batilla, which is this gaudy themed house. We walked by there and saw that, and then we ended up going and just sort of walking down one of these main roads that leads you towards this other very beautiful building and this viewpoint. And that was part of how we probably got the most steps, honestly, doing this long walk. But we had a reservation on this rooftop at like 1:30, so we had time to kill. A lot of things in Spain don't open till later in the day, and unless you're like a breakfast place, you're not gonna get in anywhere for lunch until at least 1:30. Just kind of had time to kill. But we finally got to this rooftop. It was really nice, really cool vibes, just really beautiful. Didn't love the food. It was a little bit out of my taste, but overall it was really good. And then we had reservations to go to Park Güell, which is the iconic scene from the Cheetah Girls 2 movie where they're dancing in the streets. And I would say go more in the morning. I made reservations right before sunset thinking it'd be cool. But it was just so crowded, and getting there itself is a journey unless you are on like a tour and you take a car straight to the top. You're doing a lot of walking. Both times I've been in Barcelona and gone to Park Güell, we've taken the metro, and then you get off the metro stop and you have to walk like probably 100 steps or so up because it's on an incline and like above everything. And I kind of enjoy it. I think it's part of the journey, but yeah, it was a lot. I mean, we got there and it was super fun. Very crowded though, like I said. And we were trying to take pictures on this like famous bench area, and you're not supposed to sit like on top of the part of the bench, but it was better pictures. And there were all these people doing it, so we were all taking turns getting our photos. And my friend unfortunately got yelled at by one of the like park people saying like, don't do that. And then she turned around and my friend just did it again to like get the photo. So then this lady got really mad at us and just kind of like stood there and like was shadowing the whole area, which was kind of annoying, but we didn't get kicked out, which was good. But we spent a good amount of time up there just kind of taking in the views, getting all of our pictures, and just really kind of enjoying the moment. And then that night was fun. I'll do a whole segment here at the end on like the best bars and restaurants we went to. But we went to a cool one called Es Petit Chupitos. It's kind of like a franchise. They kind of have them everywhere, but it's a shop bar basically, and it's really cool. You can get ones that like set on fire, ones that just taste really funky, and you don't know what's in them because they don't want you to know like the recipe. So while they're pouring the liquor, it'll say like liquor 1, liquor 5, and that's just like tequila or vodka. And if you smell it, you can tell what it is, but they won't exactly tell you like what the liquor is, which is kind of fun and also kind of scary. So we spent a good amount of time there, and then we found this other really cool bar that was actually recommended to us later, but we just kind of found it on our own. It was called Hemingway's, and they had really cool little like glasses, and the experience was really cool. We were also just really tired of being at like our first official day there and being 20,000 steps deep and going all day. So we Ubered home from this bar, and I remember just feeling so tired. I was like, I just want to go to sleep, guys. But we were just trying to like really get the most out of our day, you know? The following day was also a lot of walking. We had a reservation for this cool paella place that was right on the beach in the port area. But to get there, I thought it'd be fun to walk. And it wasn't only like a mile from our apartment in our Airbnb, but it feels a lot longer than that. However, we wanted to stop in the famous park in Barcelona and by the Arc de Triomphe. And it was all on the way. So I was like, let's just walk and kind of stop along the way, take our pictures, and just kind of take in, the scenery and the atmosphere. So we walked to the park, did the Arc, got all of our photos, of course, and then finally made our way toward the beach. And I actually really enjoyed this day. My friends were kind of like, our feet hurt. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. Like, we're experiencing Barcelona. And we finally get to this restaurant, and it was really good. Got our paella. We got our food. The waiter accidentally spilled my white sangria all over my dress. So I was a little bit wet for a minute. It didn't end up staining. It was white sangria, thank God. But he was like so upset that he had spilled it, and I was like, it's really okay, like, can you just like bring more sangria because like you spilled it? And he was like, yeah, of course. And then at the end, it was kind of a cool restaurant because you could kind of see how they made the paella. Like there's like a glass thing you could look through. So he like brought me this little stepladder, and he was like, do you want to like see it from above, because it's kind of hard to see from our perspective? And I was like, okay, yeah, that'd be really cool. So I got to stand on this ladder and like watch them make the paella. And I think he just felt really bad for spilling on me, but I was like, dude, it's okay. Like, if anything, I got more free sangria out of it. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. And then from there, we made our way all the way to the Gothic Quarter, which was our favorite part of Barcelona. We went there every single day. It's just kind of a fun part of town. There's lots of bars, lots of people watching, lots of things to do. And we found this cool terrace that we just kind of sat at and had some drinks. Like I said, we watched some people. And then from there, it got really cold at night. We went in the first week of March. So it was like in the low 60s every day during the day. So it was pretty nice during the day, like not too hot, not too cold. We just would wear jackets and kind of layer up. But as soon as it hit like the sun going down, it would get kind of cold. So we would always try to like plan our siestas around this time and go home and kind of relax for an hour or two before heading out for dinner. So we would always make our way back to our apartment and just have some phone time, have some picture time, and just kind of relax, because it's so much work being out from like 9 a.m. to 5 on your feet, moving, and just like, again, it's so different when you're in the States. You're like resting, you're watching TV, you're sitting, but we're on the move constantly. So in Spain has this idea of siestas where they take like 2 hours out of their day and everyone stops working, goes home, eats lunch, kind of relaxes and recuperates, and then goes back and does their job. So we kind of adapted this lifestyle and just did it every day around like 5 p.m. And most of our dinners were either between like 8 or 10:30, because they eat so late there. So it was nice to just kind of go home and relax and rest our feet, charge our phones, and then like get all ready again to go back out for the night. And I always felt kind of weird being like, well, we're wasting time, but we would be out from like I said, anytime between 8 p.m. to like 3 in the morning. So we weren't just like going to dinner and then coming home. We would go to dinner and we would like go to bars. We were out for a long time, and we're probably going to sleep every night around 2 to 3 a.m. and then getting up the next day between 8 and 9 a.m. So we're really getting the full experience of being in Barcelona and just feeling really tired and exhausted every day. But I enjoyed it. We, of course, went to the iconic market that is on Las Ramblas, and it is kind of touristy, but it's really fun. And, there's just so many different options for food. And we just kind of walked around, got like the juices and got little sandwiches, and just kind of looked at all the different vendors and all the different booths and sort of took in the moment. When I went to Barcelona a couple years ago, when I was studying abroad there, I was living there for about 3 weeks, which was really fun because I got to really take in the experience of what it was like to actually be there for a long time. I do remember Las Ramblas being more fun, but it just felt really touristy to me this time. and there's just people everywhere trying to get you to like buy things and sell you things. So it kind of was like, oh, let's get out of here. But we've again found this other really cool rooftop where we just kind of sat. We got to like overlook all these different like roofs, and we could see the cathedral. And I always say that being in Europe is just doing a lot of walking, and then every other hour or so you sit down and you have a drink and you rest, because if not, you won't really make it. So did a lot of just like finding little bars or places to sit and just kind of having an hour or so where we could just talk to each other and like reflect on what we had done and what we were hoping to do later in the night. We found this cool speakeasy called Monk, where you would walk through like a grocery store, gas station type of feel, and it would take you into this cool, almost like club-like setting. These speakeasy type places are really everywhere, so those are really fun to come by. And then we found this other bar, like a wine bar that was a lot more chill, so we could just kind of like sit there and actually talk to each other and drink like wine that was literally €5, which is so nice, is that things are so much cheaper over there. And this was probably one of the highlights of our trip that we all enjoyed. We just were in the Gothic quarter, like I said, and this area is very like alley-ish, and by that I mean like there's just little alleys everywhere and little streets to walk down. And after like 1 a.m. it gets a lot more quiet, so we just like kind of found this alley and we were taking pictures and dancing and playing Barcelona by Ed Sheeran, and just like we had our like to go drinks from the bar because they like gave us to go cups of wine, and we were just having so much fun, just like being in the moment. And this was like one of our later nights getting home, and we eventually felt bad, didn't want to like disturb the locals with our singing and dancing, so we left. But again, just really fun to be there and just like being with your friends in an alleyway at night and dancing to Ed Sheeran. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't trade that for the world. One thing we did one day, there was one day where it was, we didn't have very much planned, and my friend is getting married next year, so she actually wanted to go look at one of the venues that was about 30 minutes out of the way. So we got a taxi, drove up there and looked at it, and it was actually kind of cool because it was like a castle type thing. So while she's asking all these wedding questions, my other friend and I were like taking pictures in front of this castle and getting photos there, which was fun. And again, we were all just very, very tired, like constantly in a state of exhaustion, but also trying to keep our eyes open because we just had so much to do. And then that night we went to this really fun restaurant that I had been to before called El Nacional, and there's like different restaurants within this like giant warehouse, and it's just really cool. If you want to get there a little bit earlier than the normal Spain dinner time, you'll probably get a table right away. But when we left around 9 o'clock, there was like a huge line, but we had made reservations on the Airbnb experience to go to a bar crawl. This night was probably one of our more fun ones because we didn't know what to expect. We just showed up at this bar, and this local was hosting it, and she would like tell us what drinks to get from the bar and then bring us to the other bars and just like answer questions. And there was 10 people total, so me and my 2 friends and then just like random other people that signed up. And at first we were really nervous because we were like, oh, like what if they're not cool, what if they don't want to talk to us? But me and my friends were honestly kind of the highlight of the trip because we were like the youngest ones there and the most outgoing and talkative. So we would kind of just talk to everybody and be like, where are you from? What do you do? And these 2 really cute gay guys that were a couple came in, and we were really vibing with them and having fun with them. And as the night went on, everybody got a lot more comfortable with each other, and we were just like asking questions about their lives and what they do. And like one guy was from Kenya, one guy was from Amsterdam, one guy was German, there were like 2 other Americans, and it was just fun to talk to people. So there was one day when it was raining, and out of all the days we were there, I did think we were pretty lucky weather-wise, and only getting 1 day of rain. I was pretty happy about it. We really just got up, got breakfast, and then we headed over to the Moco Museum, which they have this museum in Amsterdam and also London and then also Barcelona. It's very cute. It's got some modern things, some older things. There was some Banksy stuff in there. and it's just kind of a fun thing to do. It was only like 16 euros, and it just kind of got us out of the rain for a while. I honestly enjoyed being in the rain. Last year when I was in Dublin, it rained literally every single second I was there. So I kind of just got used to being in the rain, and it's honestly kind of a vibe. So I got some fun little like videos of my friends and I walking in the rain, and it was also located in the Gothic Quarter, and I think the rain kind of just added to the whole ambiance of the Gothic Quarter, giving it that really like old time medieval vibe. So I actually really enjoyed that day. We found this really cool bar that was also recommended to us by the lady who did the bar crawl with us, and it was called Somnia. And it's really cool, very unique, a whole experience. It's like magic circus themed. So when you walk in, everything like the letters look like it's from a circus. There's a popcorn machine. When you sit down, they give you like a free shot on arrival, and that was delicious. Ours was made of Aperol, and I love Aperol. I was like, can I just get this as my drink? But that was cool. And then they give you the menu in a magic hat that has the QR code in it. And then you just order drinks from there, and all the drinks came very uniquely. Like one was like lit up, one came in a treasure chest. Like it was all just very unique and cool. So we spent some time there, and then when we went to pay, one of the guys was doing like magic tricks for us and was just kind of talking to us for a while. And I just thought it was a very unique experience. And we found out that they do magic shows on weekends, like every hour. So a very fun place to go. Also located in the famous Gothic Quarter. If you can't tell, we really like it there. On our last and final day, very, very sad, we booked this famous rooftop that overlooks the Sagrada Familia, which is the big, famous, unfinished church located in Barcelona. And we were supposed to go to this on the day that it rained, but because it rained, they shut it down. So when we walked over there, they just rebooked us for the last day, which was kind of nice. It was actually like the sunniest and nicest day in Barcelona. So we get there, and it was really cool. The rooftop itself was really small. It could only fit so many people. But they do give you a table, and then they give you a code, and there's a food truck up there, and that's how you get food and drinks and stuff. And it was just fun to sit up there and like, I mean, knowing us, what do you guys think we did? We spent a good 30 minutes rotating so that all of us could get the pictures and stuff that we wanted. And it was very picturesque, like one of the best spots to get photos in front of the Sagrada, because if you're down towards the entrances, it's just flooded with people and flooded with tourists. And because there's construction going on constantly and there's just like walls to keep people out, it is really hard to get in and just get a good photo. So if you have the time, it is called Circotel Rosalan, and you have to book this out kind of, it's like 7 days in advance. You can't get it like 2 months in advance. You have to kind of like go on the website. And it was hard because I was trying to get it, and then I would like log on midday, and then every time would be gone. So I was kind of like looking at it every hour on the hour to make sure I got us a spot. So yeah, and then the other fun thing about Sagrada we learned is that in Barcelona on the first Sunday of every month, most museums are completely open and free. So that's a fun thing if you go there the first Sunday of the month. We flew in the first Sunday of the month, so that didn't really work for us. And we also learned that the Sagrada is free on Sundays for mass, but it's like really hard to get in because there's so many people trying to go in. So I would kind of feel like just leave that for the locals, but I guess one free way of getting in if you want. And then we also did a day trip to a city called Montserrat, which is about an hour outside of Barcelona. We took the train, and it's a monastery, so it's a very religious site, and it's kind of cool though because you take the train there, and then from there you can take this little like funicular thing up to where the actual city is, and then from there you take another funicular to go even higher that like overlooks the city. So we were just doing some elevation changes constantly, but it was really fun. Just we wanted to do some sort of day trip because being in Barcelona a full 8 days was kind of a lot. and I had been to a lot of the other day trips around it from when I did study abroad. So I was trying to find something different that wasn't going to be too, far or difficult, but just something fun. So this is really cool. Both of my friends bought some stuff from the gift shop, and if you're into hiking, it's a good spot to go to because you can hike like between the funiculars instead of like taking the funiculars up and down. You can like do a hike instead. We just took the funiculars and it was really nice. And we did do some walking around at the very top to kind of like see the different viewpoints, which was cool. But as we were leaving, it kind of started to rain a little bit. So it was good timing on that part. Lastly, so there is this very famous cocktail bar called Paradiso, and it's listed as one of the top 50 bars in the world, and I think it was actually number one for a while. Not sure if it still is to this day, but very, very famous. You cannot get a reservation. You have to just like show up and hope for the best. And I was doing a lot of research on this bar, and it's on TikTok. People were showing like lines like 2 or 3 blocks down an hour before it even opened. So I didn't think we would actually make it into this bar, but there was, on our last night, my friend was buying something from like a store a block away, and me and my friend were like, let's just go walk by and see like how big the line actually is while we wait for our friend. And we walk over there and there's no line, and we're like, is it open? And they're like, yeah. And we're like, oh. And I was like, wait, is this the right one? Because like, how is there no line? We were like, oh, like for 3 people. And they're like, okay, give us a minute. And then like 5 minutes later, they're like, oh, we can seat you now. So we ended up getting to go into this really cool bar, and quite the experience. The cocktails are on the pricier side, like 15-17 euros, but it is like the best bar in the world. And it is worth it. Like every drink comes out with like a very cool presentation, and or in some sort of like unique glass, and they explain it to you. So I do recommend going if you have a chance. Just being able to say that you went to the most famous cocktail bar in the world, I think is pretty cool. There was this other bar we wanted to go to called Orient Express, where they bring you drinks like via like a little mini train track, but we didn't end up making it to that one since we ended up going to Paradiso so last minute. But very fun place. Highly recommend it if you have the time and patience to either wait in the line or get there early enough like we did. All right, some fun notes I wrote down about Barcelona that I always like doing for just fun stuff. So in total, we walked over the 8 days we were there a little over 101,000 steps. So the first day was our highest at like 20,000. And then every day we would go down a little bit, just did somewhat less walking. But overall, a lot of steps to do in that amount of time. For some reference, I hit around 10,000 steps daily here in the States. I try my best to get at least 10,000, and I get that usually just by walking my dogs, or I'll go on the treadmill, or just from like my daily activities. But that's a lot of steps, guys. One thing we did figure out is that you really need reservations if you want to like go anywhere for like dinner, because things fill up and they're very big on reservations. Like I said, there are some bars that will not take reservations because they're just so popular, but when it comes to actual places to eat, they want you to have that. So there was one night where we had thought we made a reservation somewhere, but it turns out we were only on the waiting list, and it was very confusing because it was obviously in Spanish and it said confirmed, but it actually just meant confirmed for the waiting list. When we showed up, they were like, oh, you don't have a reservation, but we can get you in tomorrow. So we were like, okay, that's fine. And we ended up walking around for like an hour, like trying to find a place to go. So we kind of learned to like find a reservation. Even if you just make it the night before, like that works. But finding places to go, and again, people eat a lot later in Spain. I think a lot of the reservations would start around like 7:30, and they would go until like 10:30, 11. So there were some nights where we would eat dinner more around like 8:30, and then there were some nights we'd head out around 10 o'clock to go get dinner, which was kind of funny. But yes, especially I think in the summer, I would highly recommend planning out reservations on places you know for sure you want to go. And then we did find a lot of places just while we were there and like searching
So that was a fun way to also do it. And there was this really cool sandwich shop called Bo to Be that is really cool. It's not sit down at all. You actually wait in this very long line for a €5 sandwich. They're only €5, which is amazing, but you get this giant sandwich and it's kind of just like filled with all these toppings. Very, very American, but very, very good. Kind of was a nice change of pace from all the tapas and Italian food we were eating. So we did wait in this line for probably a good 35-ish minutes. And then the shop is super small, so they only bring in like your party, and then they literally cook the meat in front of you, and then they like give you your toppings, and then you kind of take your food to go. And we sat in like the port area while we ate. It's actually a very fun experience, and for it being so cheap, that was really cool. But that's another big thing about Spain is like people will wait in lines, and they call them queues over there. I'm going to call them lines because that's what we call them over here. But it's not uncommon to wait in a line. Like, for a lot of these bars, if like they're completely full, and by full, like people aren't just like standing in the bar kind of mingling. People are like usually sitting at tables or at the bar itself. So they'll be like, how many people in your party? And then you'll tell them, they'll be like, oh, we don't have room for you right now. Go wait outside. So then as people leave the bar, they'll be like, oh, okay, you can go in now. And people will be waiting outside of these bars for like a long time, like an hour or more sometimes. And it's just hard to comprehend because like that's not really something we do here. Like there are times where you'll wait in a line to get into a bar, but it doesn't usually take that long. It's not like a huge common thing. It was pretty much like every bar or even restaurant. Like people would be like, yep, I'm going to wait here for like an hour. And me and my friends didn't really love that. So we would try to find places where either the line was like so short, or there like wasn't a line. So be prepared for that. But that is just like a common thing that happens over there. Oh, there was one night where our English slang kind of got in the way of something, and it was kind of funny. We were at this one restaurant, and when we got the bill, we usually split our dinners 3 ways. And when I asked my friend like, oh, how much is it, and she like told me the price, and I was like, oh, like that's a steal. It was a nice restaurant. And I said that in front of the waiter, and he was like, steal? What do you mean steal? Steal what? And I was like, oh no, like it's like an English term for like that's a good price. And he was like, oh, okay. But it's just funny how there are terms that like we say that like really don't translate. So I thought that was kind of funny. We ended up coming back the night before we left around, I want to say 10 o'clock. And we were all packing, and we all left at different times the next morning. So my one friend left at 3 a.m. I left at 5:45, and my other friend left at 7. So we were all traveling separately, going home, and we were all exhausted. I don't think any of us really slept that night because we were just like preparing to get up and have like the longest day of our lives ahead of us. But finally coming back to the States, I will say I get sad leaving my foreign countries because I just feel so alive and happy there. But at the same time, I was happy because I was so tired. And the thought of being back in my own bed with my own shower stuff and just kind of getting slightly back into my life was a little bit exciting. But as you can hear, my voice is still not perfect, and it's been a couple days now since we've returned. So hopefully it gets back to its normal factory settings. But what else, guys? What else? I feel like I want to just talk about my favorite part. I think I really am very grateful and happy that I have friends that are just as reckless as I am when it comes to doing things like this. I think a lot of people see a trip like this and think, how are they doing that? Like, it's really expensive and to take time off of work. Like 8 days, that's a long time. And they're not wrong. But at the same time, like, I have friends who I'm very lucky and fortunate. Like, they do have the financial means and they do have jobs where they can take time off like this. And I've mentioned how I'm in a very unique situation job wise where I can kind of be very flexible and do what I want in a sense. So to be quite transparent with you all, like when we booked this ticket to Barcelona, the only reason we did this is because I saw a TikTok where a girl was saying how you could fly from the States to Spain round trip in March for like $450 round trip. And when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. What? And I actually went online, did some research, and then I texted a couple of my friends and said, is anybody down? And then a few days later, my one friend was like, you know what? I'm not down. So we did a little bit more research. We picked out some days, and then we were like, let's go. So that's how that worked. We really only paid like $450 round trip for our plane ticket, and then the Airbnb was so nice. Like we actually found a very luxurious Airbnb. We all had our own room. There were 2 bathrooms between the 3 of us. We had a living room, a dining room, a full kitchen. We didn't really use the kitchen or the dining room, but it was nice to have it there and just have like a living room to hang out in while we like did our siesta time. So a very nice and luxurious Airbnb. For 8 days, it only costed between the 3 of us $500 each. So, for example, a couple back in February, I had friends in town here in Scottsdale for a weekend, and we got an Airbnb that was a house that had 3 bedrooms located in Old Town Scottsdale for 3 nights, and that cost each person, and there were 4 of us, $250. So to say that we went for 8 days and we each paid 500 is, like I said, that's a steal. So we obviously paid money in terms of the food and the drinks and the experiences that we did there, but overall, like the getting there wasn't that expensive. And I'm not someone that's trying to drop thousands of dollars each time I go on a trip like this, because it is a lot of money. But I just think there are ways around it if you're savvy and you look at the websites and you're like, okay, like if you're trying to go to Europe peak season in June, yeah, it's going to be expensive because that's when everyone wants to go there. But I kind of wanted to go in like a slightly off season like March because it was a lot less crowded. It wasn't nearly as hot as it was when I was there last summer. I was like dying of heat, and it was just like it was nice to kind of experience it with when it's just like a different season. And we pretty much did all the same things we would have done there. We just spent a lot less money, which was nice. So if you're someone that's looking to travel like this, look at places. And like we didn't have Barcelona in mind. Like I just saw that TikTok and I was like, you know what, this is what's cheap right now. I checked Paris, I checked a couple other places, and like those were all very expensive. But to go to Barcelona and Madrid, it was like this $400 round trip thing. So that's why we went there. It wasn't just like, let's go. It was like we saw the deal and that's why it was chosen. Normalize flying 11 hours to go on a week vacation. I think most people think that's crazy and would just travel domestically, which is fine. But, you know, it was fun and a reckless thing to do. And I'm, like I said, very happy and thankful to have friends that will do things like this with me. And I think overall, just being in this country with my friends, like, those are things we're not going to forget, you know, to be able to say, like, at 27, 26 years old, we all flew to Barcelona together, spent 8 days together, going to cocktail bars and walking around and dancing in alleys at 2 in the morning with our to-go cups of wine. Like, that's just a fun thing to be able to talk about and have with our friends. And yeah, we saw lots of cool things, lots of cool attractions, but like that's the thing that I will remember the most. So shout out to my friends. Love you guys. And yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was fun for me to record. Honestly, I gotta just keep booking trips because I love talking about them with you guys. It is so, 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 so fun. If you want to see more pictures from my trip, they are on my personal Instagram, which is at Shayna Goldberg. I also have a travel Instagram now, which is at Shays, SHAYS _travels, where I post more like cinematic clips, I would say. So be on the lookout for that. And yes, this was very fun. Back to our regular scheduled programming next week with podcasts. So excited for that. And thank you all so much. And adios, amigos. I will see you next week.